and I'm not just saying this now because you're directing this and you're doing so many other great things. It was obvious that you were overqualified for what you were doing for the very beginning, you know. And I just hope that I wasn't too deep at some times, because, you know, Susie, my wife, will frequently point out sometimes that when shot sheets were handed to me back in the day, I was in my own tunnel vision, and there's some people that might push back about anything that I might have said or done.
Look, it was all love on my end, Rich, and that's why we're here today, because you know, it was great just being around you and so many of those guys that, you know, that we came up with and came along with, you know.
Game day final and stuff like that, right? With me, Prime, and Mooch, right?
All of that. Mike Muriano, all those guys.
Right, now who's now at Prime Video
at Prime,
as well.
Right?
Yeah.
The best training ground. I mean, look, for me, starting at 1991 at the NFL to all full circle, there's nothing better.
So let's talk about what we're here to talk about right now. So why now? Why do a documentary on black quarterbacks right now, Fred Anthony?
So, you know, when you think about Super Bowl 57, and Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes facing off against each other for the first time ever, you had two black quarterbacks facing off. That was cause for celebration. And some people were like, well, you know, they're here, so why is it cause for celebration? And one of the reasons is it took 57 years. 57 years is a long time. But at the same time, with as many black quarterbacks starting in the league now, that is reason to celebrate, because we know that there were so many guys that didn't get their chance, and so many guys that went through tough times and sacrifices and death threats and things of that nature just to have the opportunity to play quarterback. So it was a perfect time to celebrate, but also to pay homage to the guys that did it before, the guys that are doing it now, and what better time than now, really.
So you're referring to folks that might be, most obviously to some people, Warren Moon is what you're talking about?
Warren Moon, Doug Williams, Shaq Harris, a ton of guys that, you know, didn't get a chance to even play quarterback, that played quarterback in college and couldn't play once they got to the NFL. I mean, Tony Dungy, who's featured in the doc, talks about playing at Minnesota, and he was leading the Big Ten at the time in passing, facing off against Warren Moon, leading the Pac-8 in passing, and neither one of them were drafted coming out of the NFL, coming out of college. Because there weren't a ton of black quarterbacks at the time.
Or they wanted to play another position.
Yeah.
You why don't you try wide receiver? Why don't you try another
back,
spot?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And again, I understand we're talking about names back in the day, but it was just right around a couple years ago when Lamar Jackson was told, "Why don't you run at the combine? We'd like to see you do other things than just spin it and throw it at the combine." And he's like, "No."
Right.
Not going to do it.
Right.
Well, I mean, even the first person featured in the doc, Jalen Hurts, talks about being at the combine and people asking him if he's willing to come in and do other things and be a Taysom Hill, Cordell Stewart type of gadget player. And that was, you know, 5-6 years ago.
That's what he was told?
Yeah. Huh. So it's not ancient history, but history is being made.
Dak Prescott saying that when he was on a visit to Dallas as a collegiate player, going through his top 30 visits, that a player in the Cowboys workout room said, "We're not going to have a black quarterback here." And then a club promoter in town told him the same thing.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there hearing that, what are you thinking when you hear that, Fred Anthony?
Well, you know, it's crazy. You know, I'm saddened, but I'm not surprised, because you hear stories like that from guys all the time. But at the same time, the reason that we wanted to make this film is because we wanted to celebrate the progress that's been made. And you think about stories like that Dak had to face. Dak just signed a contract to make him the highest paid player in NFL history.
$60 million per.
You know, so that's the progress, and that's the positive that we chose to look at, you know, doing this doc. And it doesn't shy away from the things that these guys face like this. I mean, Russell Wilson had a very similar story where he talked about the week after he won the Super Bowl being at a golf course and basically being told, "This isn't for you. You shouldn't be here," by somebody that was at the golf course.
Where, in Seattle?
This is right after he won the Super Bowl.
In Seattle?
This wasn't in Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is something that was told to him. And he's riding this high, And Russell was like, look, I choose to see the positive, and I just know some people need healing, but I'm gonna be positive. But people still face these sorts of things, and it's unfortunate, but a lot of progress has been made, and that's one of the things that we really wanted to focus on this doc.
I'm biased, obviously, but Fred Anthony, as we call him here, really struck a perfect chord to celebrate the evolution and also highlight the racism that these guys still face. I mean, you're hearing it firsthand from Dak, or the Russell Wilson story, which is an easy thing to do. And I kind of almost looked at him as how an actor, immerses themselves in a role, because he was in it, right? Like, hearing all these stories and still had to make sure that there was a balance in this. And I don't think there's any director could have done what he did. And like you said, starting at the NFL in 2005 and sitting here now, I can't imagine how you feel, knowing that you're a part of change. And there's a line in the doc that Common says that it's a revolution, and it truly is, and it's a celebration.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.